I want to welcome Dr. Kevin Sabet to A Little Knowledge is a Dangerous Thing. It's good to see you again on this topic of medical marijuana.
Great to be with you again. Thank you.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about why you are interested in this topic. What is it that got you involved?
Well, I started in this topic when I was about 13 years old. In my community, I saw many of my peers actually fall victim to, it wasn't overdose, but it was things like dropping out of school. It was things like, ruinous relationships with friends, peers, or their parents as a result of marijuana and alcohol, by the way. I mean, we can't forget alcohol either. And a few of them got into trouble in terms of physical trouble with the drugs. And so with those two drugs. And so I wanted to research much more about this. And I had heard a lot about marijuana in terms of the war on drugs and the Vietnam War and all these connections with the culture wars. And I wanted to, when I looked at that, I actually was more interested in the science behind it. And I found that marijuana is one of the most misunderstood drugs in terms of the science, because the bottom line is it's a fact that most people who use marijuana will not get in trouble with it. In fact, most people will stop after one or two times. And it's a minority of people that it really does destroy their lives. However, the cost to society and to individuals, even as a result of that minority percentage of those with trouble, is enormous. And what then you also have, what happens at the same time is that people, the majority of which do not have a problem with it, using it once or twice, they extrapolate their own experiences and think that everybody has an experience like theirs. And so it's misunderstood for a number of reasons, and so I'm glad to talk to you about it.
You're not the only person who's been researching this topic. I understand that there was quite a broad study down in New Zealand about the effects of marijuana on teenagers, and that it leads to apparently some deficit in IQ as adults.
Yeah, we've long known that marijuana produces deficiencies in cognition, and specifically working on parts of the brain that affect short and long-term memory, attention span, learning, etc. And so this was, however, groundbreaking in terms of researchers both at Harvard in the United States and in New Zealand and Europe together looked at a group of people, over 1,000 people that they have followed for over 30 years in New Zealand. What we call a population level study, which is a difficult study to do because you're following the same group of people, but it's very good in terms of the science if you can do it. And so they did do it, and they found that those people who used marijuana regularly before age 18 had IQ deficits later in life that averaged about an 8-point decline. And that was even if they had stopped using marijuana when they became adults. So they were abstinent for 15 years. That regular use of marijuana that occurred before age 18 produced a reduction of an average of 8 points in IQ, which is enormous when you think about IQ and how that scale works. So it was a very eye-opening study for a lot of people. It confirmed what scientists already knew about learning and, frankly, what parents know about what the motivation and what happens when somebody is regularly smoking marijuana. But it was striking.
I've talked about this ballot initiative as being a ruse, essentially, to legalize marijuana. And I would actually be happy to have the debate about legalizing marijuana generally.
Sure.
This is kind of a backdoor way of doing that. And I understand that the actual legitimate conditions that people have in Colorado, I think I read a study about, for using marijuana for pain relief is somewhere under 5%, and that most of the people actually are using it because they're recreational users.
Yeah, that's right. We know that less than 5% in all states with medical marijuana have a terminal illness, people with cancer, HIV, even people with glaucoma or a serious illness like glaucoma or MS or multiple sclerosis. We know the vast majority are for generalized pain, and in a recent California study, the majority were headaches and relaxation. So this is not about getting marijuana to people that may have an excruciating, life-threatening illness. And again, I agree with you. I mean, I'm against the legalization of marijuana for a lot of reasons. I think our experience with alcohol and tobacco should give us pause in terms of trying to legalize a third substance. However, like you said, that is a legitimate debate to have, which we can have on their merits. Why we're cloaking it and clouding it with this medical debate is really, I think, very disingenuous that you have legalization advocates all of a sudden throwing on white coats and pretending to care about the sick and dying when doctors and scientists and researchers are against smoking raw marijuana and against smoking that as a so-called medicine. That's not has not passed any scientific standards. So I too share your concern.
What are we going to see in the way of commercials for this, for and against this petition?
Oh, I thought you meant if this passes, what commercials will we see? Because we know that in the states that have medical marijuana and have similar laws like the one proposed in Massachusetts, we're going to have dozens of stores, marijuana stores in Massachusetts, and they will be able to advertise. And that is going to be, the Supreme Court has been very clear about what free speech is, and so that is going to be very interesting to see that. Now, in terms of your actual question on commercials, look, there's over $1.5 million that are being poured into Massachusetts by the people who want to legalize marijuana and are doing it under the guise of medicine. And so those advocates, whether it's the Marijuana Policy Project, which is a full legalization organization, or people like Peter Lewis, who is actually the founder of Progressive Insurance and is worth hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars, he actually is pouring this into Massachusetts single-handedly. And so you may see commercials, you're definitely seeing a very well-financed, orchestrated campaign. And on the no side, frankly, it's community-based organizations that don't have a lot of money that are really trying to educate as much as possible. And so you're not going to, I don't think you're going to see anything from the no side commercial-wise. There are some PSAs, there are some things on cable access, but there's also is a website, by the way, I would enjoin people to go to. It's called MAVoteNoOnQuestion3.org, MAVoteNoOnQuestion3.org, and that has a lot of information regarding this initiative on there.
I appreciate you being on the show today, Kevin. Really good information, and I will work hard to make sure that people see this.
Thank you, Representative Hunt. I really appreciate your activism in this.